Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering natural health on this year Wednesday morning, Rise and Shine. And this morning here, we're looking at a topic and two things I'm going to be talking about: hypertension and the school lunch program, the National School Lunch Program. So, I share some articles with you here and some talk about hypertension and also school lunch. So, welcome again to our live talk program, and hopefully you had a blessed night rest and you're ready to take on the challenges of today. Thanks for stopping by. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you again for the blessings of your word, and I thank you, dear Lord, for the truths that you continue to give to us. I pray that you may bless us as we look at these things that are important to our health and our well-being. May you bless us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. So we're looking here at two things. I have two set of things I want to talk to you here. So firstly, I share this article about more about the blood pressure medication, and I'm going to talk some tips for taking care of your high blood pressure, since so many of us have it. I'm not saying I have it. I'm just saying so many of us have it. So FDA reports that another blood pressure drug, irbesartan, recalled over cancer-causing impurities, and so this was the end of the week, I think last week on Friday. So there is another batch here. And this is written by Ken Tulker over there at USA Today. A drug company on Friday announced the recall of 8 more lots of irbesartan blood pressure medication after testing revealed the drug contained trace amounts of carcinogen. Princeton Pharmaceuticals recalled 1 lot of irbesartan tablets and 7 lots of irbesartan HCTZ tablets. The medication contains unacceptable levels of probably carcinogenic NDEA, the company says. The drug's ingredients were made by Zijian Pharmaceuticals, a factory in China that has been linked to several recalls of commonly prescribed blood pressure drugs since July. The Food and Drug Administration has issued a warning letter and halted all new drug shipment from that company since uncovering a series of problems at the factory. So that's a very good thing. I think by now they should have long time just shut down the whole process. Another factory in India, Hetero Labs Limited, also has been tied to multiple recalls. The irbesartan's recall is the latest involving a large class of blood pressure drugs called angiotensin 2 receptor blocker, which works by blocking the effects of hormones that narrow blood vessels. Several versions of valsartan, losartan, also have been recalled since July. Many of these commonly prescribed drugs are not part of the recall. Consumers can check the FDA websites for a full list of recalled drugs or ask their pharmacist. Princeton advised patients to check with their doctor or pharmacist before they stop taking their medication. Discontinuing a recall drug could cause more immediate harm than staying on the medication. End of article there. So more recalls going on. I've covered this in previous weeks. So this recall is continuing. So that means all those drugs, it seems, coming from those factories are tainted. So this is why I wanted to just share some things, because of the end of the article there. It said you could be more dangerous to get off the drug, because the drug is trying to block the signal that's telling your body to constrict the blood vessel. So if the signal is going through because you stop using the drug, what I'm seeing there would be your blood vessels will start to constrict, and hence it will shoot up your blood pressure and could cause stroke, heart attack, and various other problems. So I could understand why they say you need not to come off per se, but you need to consult your doctor or so forth. So that's why I want to talk about high blood pressure firstly this morning here. So the second article here that is related that you have to consider for your education here, Kent Al Tucker have this piece again in USA Today. Do you have high blood pressure is a question asked. It depends on which doctor you ask. An estimated 103 million Americans have high blood pressure and should change their lifestyle or take medication to maintain cardiovascular or heart health. So 103 million Americans. So that's about a little bit less than 1/3 of the population has high blood pressure, and that would be more than probably half or about half of the adults. So that's a lot of people. That number, nearly a third of the country, is based on clinical guidelines adopted in 2017 by the American College of Cardiology, the American Heart Association, and other groups. About 46% of adults have hypertension under the guidelines, which are more aggressive than those that came before. They set the threshold for stage 1 blood pressure at 130/80, down from the previous benchmark of 140/90. So they brought it down 10 points on each level. But primary care doctor groups are critical of those standards, which they say could lead to overdiagnosis and over-medication, potential problems themselves when patients don't need them. The American College of Physicians and the American Academy of Family Physicians recommend medication for adults aged 60 or older with blood pressure above 150. People with a history of stroke or heart trouble should take medication to keep their blood pressure below 140. So history of stroke or trouble with heart problems, 140. So even the older number benchmark, a person even below 140 still would be encouraged if they have problems. Over 150 medication. The different guidelines could confuse patients about the most commonly diagnosed condition during outpatient medical visit. High blood pressure can contribute to heart failure, heart attack, stroke, chronic kidney disease. It is caused or contributed to 360,000 deaths in 2013, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Paul Muntner, an associate dean of the University of Alabama Birmingham School of Public Health, was part of the research team that estimated the number of Americans with high blood pressure based on American College of Cardiology and American Heart Association guideline. A lot of Americans have blood pressure levels that are unhealthy and associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease, he said. Muntner said it's too early to tell whether 2017 guidelines have made a meaningful difference for patients in curbing stroke or heart attack, or whether patients are more likely to be prescribed blood pressure drugs or non-drug therapy. He estimates that 82 million Americans should be on blood pressure lowering medication, an increase of about 4 million from previous guidelines. So out of the 103 million, they're suggesting 82 million should be on blood pressure. So that's a majority of people who, that's like, I would think now that's like 30 something percent. So 1 out of every 3 adults would be on blood pressure medication. That's a lot of medication. And all these medications are causing problems. So that's an increase by 4 million. There are several types of commonly prescribed blood pressure lowering drugs, including diuretic, calcium channel blockers, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors or angiotensin 2 receptor blockers such as valsartan and losartan. Since July, drug companies have recalled dozens of the lots of valsartan and losartan, irbesartan, either alone or in combination with other drugs, after testing revealed trace amount of carcinogens. Several versions of these drugs are not affected by the recall. Patients can check with their doctor, pharmacist, or Food and Drug Administration recall list to see whether their medication are part of the recall. Most Americans will, with slightly elevated stage 1 hypertension, should be able to lower their blood pressure by losing weight, exercising, and eating less salt and more fruits and vegetables and whole grains. The primary care doctor who researched developed the less aggressive targeting of treating older adults with blood pressure above 150 said they attempted to balance the benefits of treating high blood pressure with potential harm. Right? And basically, they go on to the idea of, how aggressive they get with the guidelines and how they treat. And it ends by saying primary care doctors and their patients are savvy and have been able to moderate through this sometimes confusing discussion on conflicting guidelines. So before I go to the second part, I just want to share with you some information here. 2 sets of information I want to share with you on what some of the things you need to do if you have high blood pressure. And since if we're talking about adults, a percentage, almost 46% let's say of adults have high blood pressure at either level 1 or level 2, or stage 1 or stage 2, low level or high level. So most naturally, first up is when we talk about high blood pressure is visceral belly fat. It promotes heart disease. So the more fat that is around your midsection is the more you're likely to have high blood pressure on a long-term basis, or is soon to have it. So visceral belly fat is important to start to work on reducing it by reducing overall fat consumption and all that. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So visceral belly fat is something to target via various different mechanisms I'll mention in a second. Also, one need to reduce inflammation. So inflammation is another thing that has to be reduced. And there's various different sources of inflammation, primarily by what we ingest or put inside of our bodies. So cigarette smoke, second-hand cigarette smoke, to eliminate that. To reduce elevated blood glucose level. That's another thing. So if one is on the path of getting diabetes, anything that you do for hypertension will help with diabetes, because diabetes is either dealing with sugars or fat, both. Over the years I've heard people say what you need to do is try to eliminate just fat or reduce sugar, but I believe it's both, because one becomes stored energy and that will add to the fat to fat levels, and then one is just straight up fat that will clog the system, create more visceral or belly fat. So to deal with that, and this will help to through the diet and exercise process, will help to eliminate or reduce the chances of high blood pressure. Deal with chronic infection. So any type of infections, any type of cold. If you even notice when you get sick or your body's under pressure, you're having an immune response, a stomach virus, anything like that, your pressures tend to go up, your pulse rates tend to go up, and so you want to be able to eliminate that and maintain good, healthy flow in your system. Reduce toxins. So you want to eat very healthy, and you want to be able to not get yourself exposed to any type of environmental toxin. So I've learned if I'm doing something with dust or dirt or whatever, or cleaning or dealing with some type of chemical, to try my best to remember to put on a mask, a face mask, so I don't inhale all that stuff, because all that stuff gets in your lung. it's going to have to be processed in your body, and that could cause you to get sick. Do heavy metal detox, or eliminate heavy metals. And so this is what you want to do. You want to remove the amalgam fillings in your teeth. And then you want to be able to use things like cilantro. All of a sudden, one of them slipped my mind. But certain herbs, just go ahead and look at herbs that you can use to remove heavy metal out of your system. And other type of detox like juice fasting and charcoal, bentonite clay, stuff like that. Also, you want to reduce cholesterol or remove cholesterol from your diet. So remove animal products from your diet. This will help add less fat to your system. And so you want to do stress management. More on that I'll talk about later. The other things you want to do to reduce inflammation is you want to take herbs that are anti-inflammatory on a daily basis. Herbs like hyssop, ginger, turmeric, arnica montana, devil's claw, and willow bark, certain herbs like that. And there's many more that you can find that are herbs that will help reduce inflammation in your system overall. So you want to attack this at a multiple level. You want to be able to use healthy oils, and healthy oils are oils that are so you want to eliminate like as much as possible or altogether, but as much as possible, like your regular soy oil, corn oil, most actually any animal fat oil, any margarine, butter, that type of thing, and use as healthy as you can oil as close as they are in their natural state. So you want to use not just the regular olive oil, but you want to use extra virgin olive oil. You want to use any other plant oil, whether it be like an avocado or a coconut oil. If you're going to saute, you saute with a small amount of coconut oil. You can use sunflower oil and the various different oils. And most naturally, you want to use the product also in its most natural state. So at times, if you can eat, you use olives instead of using the oil itself. You want to reduce oil as much as possible. So instead of sometimes cooking in oil, you use the oil as a garnish. So, and I do this to this day. If I'm going to say saute onions, I saute the onions in water and then I add the oil at the end so that I don't have to add a lot of oil. And see, oil is good because oil can, it has its anti-inflammatory properties, but too much of it and frying it and cooking it, it takes away that property, because most oils, they're so susceptible to burning that they will be damaged and they can be a carcinogenic item itself. But anyhow, the oils are good. Remember, cholesterols and stuff like that are used to take down the inflammation. So use nuts, seeds, but sparingly. A handful of nut. Limit your nuts per day. I've known a lot of people there eat healthy, but they use way too much nut. And the nuts that they use is just too much for the system. And it adds a lot of oil and stuff to their system. So anyhow, so use the oil in its most natural state. So nuts and seeds. But also you can use the oil if you have high blood pressure in its as a garnish. So that means you put it on top of the food. You don't cook it into the food. When we cook it into the food, like say for instance, you cook rice. Rice can be very dry, and so you have to have a sauce. But sometimes you can limit your sauce, or what I would say your gravy and stuff like that, by cooking the rice. And after the rice is cooked, you add the oil to the rice. And I've tried this many a time. If I cook and I put, I don't know, say I'm cooking, like a Pyrex, a 9x13 Pyrex amount of rice, that will fill a Pyrex like that. And I cook it and I add, I don't know, say 2-3 tablespoons of rice to the whole pot. Of oil to the pot of rice. When I finish, it's almost like there's no oil in the rice. But if I take that same tablespoons of oil and I put it on the rice is garnished on the outside, so to speak, with the oil. And that can limit or reduce the amount of, say, gravy or that type of thing that I need to add to the rice when I'm eating it or add to the food or the plate of food with whatever protein, because the rice is not as drying. And so that's some of the things that I'll do, and I can eliminate, and not eliminate, but reduce the amount of oil. So when you think about that, sometimes instead of using the oil, as I say, you're doing the onions, you put some water, like a few tablespoons of water, depends on the amount of onion most naturally, but if you like onion on your food, you put the tablespoons of onion, and you covered the top of the saucepan, and you make the onion become translucent, right? So now the onion is cooked, and then you take off the pot cover, and you make the water evaporate. And then as it evaporates, then you put a little oil, and then that reduces the amount of oil. And then you can, like as a matter of fact, this morning, that's what I did for breakfast. One part of my meal this morning for breakfast was I just sauteed in water some onions, and then when it was ready, I add some tomato. Adds beautiful sweet flavor, and then the onions have a beautiful sweet flavor. And then I put oil at the end, a little salt, and it gives it a nice rich sweet flavor. So the rest of my meal now would be rice and kidney beans, with some baked tofu. Again, I've garnished the outside of the tofu after it's probably about 80% baked, and so that makes it, but not overly dried out, make it nice and have a rich flavor. And by doing that, I can reduce the amount of oil, but the food is very not only flavorful, because oil transmit flavor to your tongue. That's what oil is there for. It's not only for the slippery and the smoothness of the meal, but it also takes the flavor of the meal and transmit it to your tongue, because it's a carrier. And so it makes seasoning becomes more potent to the tongue. That's the way to say it. And so that's what it is. But if it's on the outside, it also still transmit the flavor. You don't have to have as much in it, and you can still get the flavor on your tongue. And it can taste, even to me, better, because it's not like soaked in. Because hey, look, if the rice is in the middle of say the oil is in the middle of the rice, you're not gonna get as much. It doesn't matter, because it's in the middle of the rice. It's all soaked in. You just need it on the outside, if you know what oil is doing, and the oil is going to transmit the flavor, and then you can get it on your tongue. I didn't plan to talk about all of that, but anyhow, I went off there. But just on the oil, because the oil is a big part. Now, why the oil is a big part of high blood pressure and diabetes, but high blood pressure here, is that oil, when it goes inside the body, it stays fat. Unlike carbohydrate, that has to be broken down, and starch, had to be broken down, or protein has to be broken down, amino acids and so forth. The fat goes in as fat and stays as fat. So you can start removing that visceral belly fat by simply figuring out ways how to use oil or fat and to reduce the volume. And sometimes sometimes it could just be 50%. But as I say, I've learned that I could use the oil more as a garnish on the outside, and I still get the flavor profile of the herbs and whatever I'm cooking, but I don't have it everything soaked in the oil, and so it's dripping in oil. It's just dripping on the outside, not on the inside. Hopefully you understand that. At least that's how it works for me in my mind. So anyhow, so when you look at that, you reduce that amount of oil over the course of months, you will see the difference in your skin and so forth, because you're not clogging your system up, and you can start helping reducing the belly fat, reduce stress on your system. You want to be able to know when you're going to go through stress and try to come up with means and ways to reduce stress. I'll deal with that more. And you want to increase your water consumption. This is a very important point. You need, normally suggested is that you have about 6-8 cups of water a day. Just try this and see how it works. try to do at least 6.5 cups or 6 cups a day, every day. This will help reduce your pressure, right? It will help keep your blood nice and flowing, your body hydrated. So try 6. And if you really want to try something that really works, probably try 10 and then back off to after probably about 2 weeks. If you don't do this regular, I'm saying, then to 8. But you should look at your target as minimum 6 cups of water a day. And if you're probably in the summer, you want to look at your target as 8 to 10 cups a day. Most actually, depending upon your size, they normally have a suggestion where they take your ounce, your weight, whatever your total weight, and then divide it by, and then calculate it by the ounce. And say whatever your weight is, that's the ounces of water you need total for the day. So whatever you weigh, if you weigh 200 pounds, you need 200 ounces of water, which is like, I don't know, that even don't sound right because that sound like over a gallon. But anyhow, so if you look at the water consumption your body normally needs for its natural processes, without going into detail, about probably I think 6.5 cups or so. You need a little extra to take you over the top. And so it depends on what you're doing for the day. If you're drinking a smoothie, if you're eating fruits and so forth, that could add to your water consumption. Depends on what you add. You had for meal. If you had like a 2 bowls of soup, that could change things. So if you look at your number and you say, my number is, no matter what I'm doing every day, I'm going to try to get in free and clear. Oh, also if you're drinking certain juices and stuff like that. But free and clear, I'm going to try to get about 6 cups. If you try that basically every day of the year, you're going to be in a much better shape, because water is a big part of the problem why so many people are having problem with high blood pressure. Just just tell yourself, look, I need a minimum 6. Probably in the winter it could be less, probably whatever you're doing. If you're traveling and you can't be drinking as much water, whatever, but that's your minimum. In the summer, you're going jogging, you're doing something that you're going to sweat, you could go up to 10 and you're good, and you could drink even more. And few things will happen here. The more water you drink is the more your capacity and the strength and the capacity of your bladder will get, and so you'll be, it's fascinating. Like I'm fascinated by how much capacity my bladder can hold and do hold now in comparison to even a few years ago. Because there came a point where I wanted to test this out, and I just decided for, I think it's like a 2-week stretch, I was doing like a gallon a day or something close to that every day for like 2 weeks, and it just expanded my bladder, and I've kept it. And then recently again I tried like doing like a whole bunch. I didn't think I made it up to but like for a week I did almost, I don't know, probably about 5 days or so I did almost I don't know, probably 12 cups every day or something like that. And I felt like my bladder expanded again, or my ability to hold it. I don't know which one is happening, if my bladder is expanding or just the muscle is able to hold for a period of time, long period of time. We don't have to go to the bathroom. So anyhow, your water consumption is massive. It's this is a seminar in itself just to talk about the benefits of water consumption on the body. And especially when it comes to high blood pressure. You show me a person with high blood pressure, and they started drinking a lot of water. With just what I talked about so far, their body will respond so beautifully to it. And so most actually here, another thing here is exercise. It's important to exercise. I'm always an advocate that you exercise, I don't know, 50, probably to 75% or 80% of your capacity is a good way to start exercising. Whatever your capacity is, go about 2 weeks, a month below your capacity. It's better to exercise 5 days a week, 50% of your capacity, and then incrementally step that up than to try to exercise your capacity. So more and with less is better, so that you can have an exercise routine. So whatever your capacity is, it doesn't matter. If you're not in a regular state of exercise, much as if you exercise on a regular basis, this doesn't this doesn't include you. But if you're not and you're sick, this is like water. This is similar to water. It's a non-starter. I don't understand how somebody could be, you know, clinically sick. The doctor has basically write off that you're sick. Isn't that your head telling you you're sick? You're sick by an outside observer. And you're not exercising minimum 5 days a week. So somebody said, but I'm sick, I can't well, that's what I'm saying. Go 50%. If a person have high blood pressure, you don't want to go above even 80% on a regular basis anyhow. So you want to stay 50% of your capacity. And remember, you hear me say these things here and there. Go to your doctor first and ask your doctor, can I exercise 5 days a week, 50% of my capacity? And if the doctor say yes, then it's a good advice. You go by that. That means if something go wrong, you talk to your doctor, not me. But that's where my understanding is. You're very safe if you go your capacity. And someone say, I already have high blood pressure. My capacity is I can only do 5 minutes exercise. Then do 2.5 minutes. That's basically what I'm saying. I hope you understand that. I'm saying whatever your capacity is, try to do 5 days, 50%. So that means if you feel like you can exercise for 15 minutes, exercise for 7 minutes, 8 minutes, and then stop. And do that 5 days a week. Why am I saying that? Because you'll be able to maintain that without even thinking about it. Think about it. You think about it. Can you maintain that? Yeah, because you only do it 50% of your capacity every day. So just when the exercise start getting real, you stop. And somebody gonna say, that don't feel right. But don't worry about it. Just do that for 5 days for like about 2 weeks. And then now the following probably 2 weeks or next week, you increase to 60%. Until you get up about 80%. And if you have high blood pressure, you want to probably keep it there. And you do that 5 days a week, 80%. That means that when you feel like you have about 20% left to go, you stop. And you can take that same principle when it comes on to eating. But probably with eating, though, you need to feel about a bit satisfied. But the moment you feel like, I can do about 5 more spoons or 5 more forks, you stop at about 80% of your capacity. Just when you start feeling like, oh yeah, I've started feeling that full feeling, you cut it off. Or you wait. And the best way to do with food is that just when you start feeling like, okay, I still have a little more to really be full, you wait probably 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You start a conversation, you take up your phone, start scanning the news, whatever. Distract yourself for a little bit. And what will happen is that the brain will finally readjust and you'll feel like, I can stop. It's better to never go your full capacity until you gain the self-control. This could take months or weeks to get this rhythm going. But with exercise, it's important not to go your full capacity because, again, you have damage to your system if you have high blood pressure already. And you don't want to overexert yourself. Also, you don't want to overexert yourself because it will cause you not to want to exercise the next few days. So hit near your capacity and stop. But if you haven't been exercising for months or whatever, years, whatever, just do 50%. If you can do 20 push-ups, or do 10 and stop. And do 10 for the next 5 days. Or take a break, every other day. And do something else on your body. It will work. And you will get some benefit. A few more points here before I go to my second set of article. If I could just find this. All right. So some of the things to do that will help your blood pressure is to use liberally garlic. So use garlic as part of your food, in your soups, in your various different foods. Use garlic cloves. If you can find a garlic cloves that are not highly flavored, scented, you use those. You can cook them slightly, steaming them, use them as a supplement. Adding more whole grain to your diet, as much whole grain as possible. So whole grain rice. Switch up the grains you use. Use whole grain wheat when you can find it. Use spelt whole grain. Use barley. Various different type of whole grains. as much as possible. This will give you not only better flow, but it will give you better nutrients. Salts are important. Celery is a natural source of salt, natural salt. So use celery, whether you eating the celery as like with hummus or something. Start to include more celery in your food, and you can eat this as part of your diet or part of a snack. If you're gonna eat snack, have celery. That's natural salt. Salts, try to use sea salt. Sea salt, don't use your regular table salt. Cut out table salt altogether or restrict it, and increase the use of sea salt. Now, sea salt and table salt are the same thing per se, but it's not the same thing. Sea salt is the salt that has not lost its savor. So that salt has most of the minerals that is naturally found in salt. And so sea salt per volume is a higher volume. That means there's more of it, but less salt in it. Salt is normally sodium, and then normally in our salt we have sodium chloride, and that's what we call salt or table salt. But with sea salt, you get, from wherever you get the sea salt from, you get high amounts of the other trace minerals that your body need. And so instead of using regular table salt that will help make your blood pressure go up, you eliminate that altogether and use sea salt. And so you just go online and get some sea salt, or go to your regular health food store and get actually sea salt. The sea salt always will be wet, and so you have to deal with it differently. You have to put it in the food first and cook it, because it has to break it down because it's so filled with minerals. But your body needs those minerals. And so a lot of the problem with salt is not so much salt, but it's the lack of minerals in the salt. So eliminate sodium chloride, which is table salt, altogether, and use sea salt, which is basically sodium chloride or table salt is made from sea salt, but they remove all those minerals so that it can flow, and it's dry. But this doesn't do good for your body, so you have to be able to deal with that. Other things to do here that is important is to have relaxation, rest. So most naturally here, I'm a big advocate of the Sabbath. I'm a big advocate of taking time to relax, and so you can relax and have time where you can relax. That means relaxation doesn't mean coming home, stream a movie from Netflix or wherever, and it's a horror show, and then you lay up at night and can't sleep. That's not relaxation. It might seem like it could be a family activity, but it's not family activity. Try to avoid things that will make you all stressed out and go berserk and crazy and have nightmares. So relaxation is to enjoy nature, to go for a walk, to enjoy good family time, to sit at a table, eat your meal. Having a Sabbath day where you can have time in church and you can enjoy the Word of God and so forth and so on. That's relaxation, going to the park, all of that type of stuff. So you want to be able to have your quiet time. It's good to be able to come home from work if you feel like it. I don't know if this is a good idea, but depends on who I'm talking to. But you come home from work and you can, get your shower, do whatever you do, get some tea, probably some chamomile, some rooibos, whatever tea you can get, and you drink that tea and you relax a little bit, and you probably put on some soft music and take a little break. Probably don't go to the news just yet, because there's probably something on the news that will frighten you because of pure madness going on in our society and in our country and the politics. So, and relax. This is a very important part of it. I've known people that they'll do herbs, exercise, drink water, all that, and they still can't get a blood pressure. They can't get their blood pressure down. And then, I started to talk to them and find out that their problem is they don't know how to relax. They're always stressed out. And what's going on there? They're connoisseurs. They're avid consumers of conspiracy theories, and they're seen under every leaf and under every rock, a CIA agent and a Jesuit, and they're constantly worried about what the nefarious groups across the country are doing, what the government is doing, what the Jesuits are doing, what everybody's doing, and they're going berserk, and they're worried about things that they can't change. And so, for me personally, I observe these things, but I ain't gonna lose my head over it. I sleep at night. So it's important, to, if a person can't deal with this, just to put it down, because no matter how much you consume this material, nothing changes. It's just getting worse. So relaxation is important. I'll move on. Doing stretch exercise. Stretch exercises is important. So stretching, doing some floor exercise. That means your body becomes the weight, whether it be push-ups or squats and sit-ups and various different type of exercises, various different type of stretches. Core exercise to straighten your core, because the problem a lot of time is in the core anyhow. So you want to be able to straighten the core, tighten the core of your body, and you want to be able to do that type of exercise. And so this is where it comes in, where this can be part of your relaxation, your exercise to transition down. You probably can even drink some tea, or after you drink the tea, or before you drink the tea, do some exercise. As I say, the treadmill, the bicycle, will lift some weights. Take out whatever you suffered today at work. In the evening when you come home, take it out on the exercise equipment. And then you drink some tea, relax, and then you say, good, I get it out in there. And this is important. It will help your body to relax. As I said, there's so many times the issue is just simple, not relaxing. Nothing to deal with here that is important is things like not being able to have proper airway flow when you're sleeping. So airflow is important. So I always suggest that if not a window in your house is cracked, the window in your bedroom that you sleep is cracked. So that when I say cracked, I'm talking about 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, depends on how cold it is outside. So there's a constant fresh air flow coming in out from outside. It'll cost you a little extra money for heating if you're up north, or for cooling if you're down south, or whatever it is you do, wherever you're at. But you get some fresh air flowing inside the house. But if you have fresh air flowing inside, because you need oxygen, you need water, it's the big parts of your blood. But if you have fresh air flowing in and you have either snoring, sleep apnea, then you need to address this with a sleep specialist or with other devices. You can go online and find devices where something to hold your tongue down so that your tongue doesn't go and restrict airflow, or other things that can be done to try to open up your nostril. Use breathing treatment that has things like peppermint oil. I'm looking at this thing I have in front of me. I have this thing that I always get from Albus, which is it's a vapor, and this vapor inhalant, it has basically various different oils that are very good to open up the nostril and also decongest. And it's menthol, peppermint, cajeput, and eucalyptus. And you can buy those essential oils and basically do a breathing treatment. Go online and probably view a video where they show you how to do a breathing treatment with hot water and a towel, and try to get your lungs and your sinuses cleared out so that you can breathe easy. Because if you're getting fresh air into your house and you're basically stifling all night long, this could affect your blood pressure because you're just not having fresh air, not breathing. Deep breathing exercise is important also to get full aspiration. Am I saying that right? Full air into your lungs so that you can get out your carbon dioxide. Another thing that can help is to eat 2 meals a day instead of 3. You find that if you're not eating properly, or you're eating too late at night, it can affect not only your belly fat and your overall weight, but also, this is one of the number one things I believe that cause people to be overweight, eating late in the evening. if a person eliminate this, boom, it's like a probably 50% fix of weight problem. So eliminating the evening meal, or take fruits and stuff like that in the evening. So eating your largest meal in the breakfast, lunch, and then either no meal after lunch, or fruits or smoothie or shake or nut shake or something like that, or nothing at all until the next day. And what you're gonna find is that could readjust your breathing. It could readjust your ability to sleep, deep sleep, so your body can restore. Because I'm telling you, when you're tired or when I'm tired, the pulse rate goes up because your system is under so much pressure. Your kidneys getting damaged. All of that is happening. So, removing that evening meal or making it as light so that when you finally sleep, your stomach is empty. These are very important things. That is when it comes on to blood pressure. I'm gonna tell you, you eliminate that meal in the evening or have something very light, you solve multiple health problem. You could exercise all you want. That evening meal is a non-starter. You're wasting your time. Not wasting your time, but you're undoing your effort. That sounds better. All right, so these are some of the things that I would like to suggest for you to do. Most actually, everything that you're gonna do, you could get immediate result from some of it. Some of it you're gonna have to fight a hard battle. But whichever way, what you're doing is you're reducing your chance of having like a stroke, heart attack, and a constant stress and ill effect of having high blood pressure. You want to drop that pressure, and you can do this and much more. As I say, if you feel like you can go for a jog, go for a walk. That could be 50% of your capacity. So that means if you can jog at a nice pace, cut back and say jog, instead of jog for half an hour, walk for half an hour. Do that for 2 weeks, do that for a month, 5 days a week. Get more out of the walk. And what you'll find is that long term wise, you'll be better than if you do it short term. Because a person will say probably jog 2 days a week. Yeah, it's beneficial if you can do it per se and do even more, but it's better if you do a walk for 5 days a week. If you're doing any of these things that I suggest, never think about I'm going to do it for a week and then you're looking for results. Remember, any ill health that we have when we talk about high blood pressure, we're talking about years of this problem being developed and our body slowly eroding and being messed up. So you want to be able to fight this battle and think about that. I'm going to fight for months. And every day, say every week, you improve by 1%. This is how you have to look at it. 1%. After 6 months, you've gone at least 25% improvement. So you're not. Why does that sound wrong to me? It sounds wrong. Oh yeah, it's a 1% a week. Yeah, so I'm about 26% or so. So this is where you want to be. After a year, you're 50% of the problem solved. Somebody said, well, that's only 50%. Just think about it. If you're say 30, 35, I'm going to go a young age, and you already develop high blood pressure. And for 35 years, you've been on the wrong path, and your blood pressure is not getting under control. And after 1 year, you've overcome that problem that you're having by 50%. And after 2 years, your blood pressure is normalized. Hey, it's still worth it if all you got was 1%. And I'm sure after about 3 months, that number is going to start to jump. Instead of you getting a 1% every week, you probably start, because your body start to get, the herbs and the lifestyle changes and all these things are going to start getting more in sync. Then what will happen is that your body will start to, it will start to kick in. And so instead of probably after a week, you got a 1% change. Probably next week, after the first 3 months, the following week, you get a 2%. But I'm just telling you that if you can overcome a bad health issue within 2 years, it's a good walk. I just know, and I've talked to different people about this. People don't want to hear that. I know people, what they want to hear is that, look, I've been sick. I've been taking care of myself. I treat myself like I'm basically waste for the last 40, 50 years. And within 1 week, I'm going to rid myself of this problem. And that's not reality. That's not reality. And somebody going to say, well, I took some drugs and the drugs gave me some help. Yeah, but these drugs are causing cancer. That's not reality. You want to basically be reasonable. And reasonable is this, that if I can do, and after a quarter, I can get 13% reduction in my problem. And even my blood pressure dropped by, 3 points, 5 points, whatever it is. That's not bad. And I keep going like that. And after a year, I'm close to normal. And by the second year, I'm in and I'm good. It's a year fight, but boy, we do have the damage in our lives. A quick article I'm going to share with you here to switch the subject. So hopefully that was some things to get you going on your path to lower your blood pressure. As I say, so much of adults have it, 46% of all adults. So that means 50% almost of all of you would have high blood pressure. So just a quick note on this is an article that's out this month. It says, here's what the USDA's new nutritional rule mean for 30 million children eating school lunches. And this is taken from Mother Joe's by Carrie Sunday there. And it says, early this month, the U.S. Department of Agriculture issued new nutrition standard for school lunches that makes it easier for schools to offer less healthy meals to students. The new rules significantly dilute the high standards set by the Obama administration in 2010 Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act, which required that federal subsidized school lunch programs provide meals that meet certain nutrition standards. For instance, bread that is whole grain rich, flavored milk that is non-fat, and lower level of sodium across the board. These standards were meant to address growing health concerns for children across the United States, including rising levels of obesity. The changes announced earlier this month undo the whole grain, non-fat milk, and sodium rule set by former President Barack Obama. Rolling back the healthy lunch standard has long been a priority of the U.S. Department of Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue, who in 2017 announced that his department was looking at lunch rules. Perdue, a former Georgia governor and a supporter of chocolate milk, said in a statement last year that schools should have made control over the kind of food they serve in cafeterias. Quote, schools want to offer foods that students actually want to eat, Perdue said in his announcement to the planned change last year. Continuing to quote, it doesn't do any good to serve nutritious meals if they wind up in the trash can. So I'll pause there because of the sake of time. Just wanted to drop this little note in there. So basically it says schools should offer food that students actually want to eat. If any of you know, I think all of us was children at one point, that foolishness is bound up in the art of children. And also that children could have candy for breakfast. For all matters, they could have cotton candy. Every day could be like a day at at the state fair. Yay! So what do they want to eat? It's fascinating. What did I want to eat when I was young? What I eat now is fascinating. Oh yeah, that's another thing I should say when it comes on to high blood pressure. Beans are powerful. Beans are very good to take down the antioxidants or the oxidants in your system. Beans are excellent. Some kids do if they're brought up that way, but a lot of kids, if they're brought up like somewhere they're eating beans as a regular meal. But beans is sometimes don't like by kids. But beans are powerful to help all manner of health problems. But back to my article. But experts believe that the more nutritious meal offered in schools following the Obama era laws aren't going into the trash. Recent studies indicate that kids are getting used to the healthier meals. They are eating more fruits and veggies at lunch, and are starting to like them. No question, if you were a high school senior when the standard went into effect, they might be harder for you to accept, which is reasonable. They were eating that stuff. They weren't eating that stuff all the time, so most naturally, it would be very difficult for them to get used to that. But for kids coming into school, we're showing them from the get-go that this is what a healthy lunch looks like. According to Siegel, the lunch standard rollback have been a huge impact for future children's health, especially low-income children. Mother Jones spoke to the person here, Siegel, about these things and asked some questions. Here's some of the answers. What was the trajectory of school lunch policy before and through the Obama administration? Before the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act, school meals were improving in a kind of slow and piecemeal fashion. They were still unquestionably too high in saturated fat and sodium and far too low in whole grains. They had outdated calorie requirements. Kids were able to select meals that had no fruits or vegetables. And so, as you might imagine, that was happening quite a lot. The rules were very much in need of overhaul. The Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act was based on nutrition standards that had been recommended by the Institute of Medicine / George W. Bush commissioned the IOM, which is the Institute of Medicine, to come up with these standards. It was a huge improvement, a really significant leap forward. They phased in slowly, but ultimately all the grains food offered to children like pasta, bread and hamburger rolls had to be 100% whole grain rich, which does not mean 100% whole grain. It just means that half the grains have to be whole grain. Kids now have to take a fruit and vegetable at lunch. They also have to serve a wider variety of fruits and vegetables. Breakfast has to offer fruit, and they were going to gradually lower sodium over many years to bring it down to more reasonable levels. There are a new common sense calorie caps on meals based on the children's grade level, and free water had to be available in the cafeteria. Another quick paragraph here. It says another really significant improvement in the Healthy Hunger Free Lunch Act is what is called Smart Snack Standard. When kids are at school, they are not just exposed to food in the cafeteria on the federal school meal line. They also offer a la carte snack line where, prior to healthy food this act, they could get junk food pretty much straight up. Things they can get through vending machine, through the PTA fundraiser and school store, and all of that is now governed by the Smart Snack Standard, which, not perfect, they really rein in the worst junk food. So the article goes on. It's worth going over there and reading this article, but I just want to say this real quickly, that if you look at what some of these standards that were set, these standards were originally commissioned by George Bush, and then Barack Obama initiated the standards. And the standards are reasonable and sensible. Some fruit, vegetables, 50% whole grain on pastas and other grain type of meals, the burger rolls and stuff like that. A smart snack standards where it's still, probably junk food, but it is healthier. If it's in machines and stuff like that in the school. You think about that, as that's reasonable. A lot of even adults should be doing this for their kids. When your kids are eating meal, you need to have a vegetable. You need to have a fruit. If it's something, that's fruit-based or vegetable-based with your meal. You need to be able to have healthier snacks when you're going to have a snack. Reasonable guidelines that are now being rolled back Why? So you can kill off the people. This is not good. This is something that we have. You think about it. I was talking about high blood pressure. Same thing with diabetes. A lot of the problems with high blood pressure and diabetes is visceral belly fat, not being able to physically move your body, and so forth. A lot of this is to do with the diet. And you change the diet, and you can have incremental success. That's what I'm saying. I'll take 5% improvement any day, because at least it's a change. Take a change instead of rolling back these changes. I don't see what's wrong with these things that you would want to roll it back. But most naturally, they're being rolled back. Not very good for the young people, especially those of poor family. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, we thank you again for your message that you give to us on health, that we ought to take better care of our bodies. I pray that we might do this. May you bless us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live tomorrow morning, where we should talk about current events. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.